A Dalton home that she leased to Mayor Tiffany Henyard has filed eviction papers. She says Henyard has not paid her rent, and now she wants her.
Now she's teasing a big announcement that she claims will result in some of her opponents being arrested and charged.
In Dalton, Illinois, Mayor Tiffany Henyard, often dubbed the self-proclaimed supermayor, finds herself at the center of a growing scandal that has rocked the village and captured the public's attention. Accusations ranging from embezzlement to lavish spending have cast a shadow over her leadership, and as the drama unfolds, the situation only becomes more bizarre. For many residents, the situation has become an intense saga. If these accusations are proven true, the consequences would be severe, not just for Henyard, but for Dalton, which is already grappling with economic struggles and underfunded services. Financial misconduct on such a large scale would further cripple a community already facing challenges such as poor infrastructure and inadequate public services. The ongoing scandal has sparked outrage as residents question how such massive amounts of public money could vanish under the watch of a leader entrusted with their welfare. The controversy doesn't stop with the missing funds. Henyard is also facing intense criticism for allegedly using public money to fund an extravagant lifestyle. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who has been brought one particularly jaw-dropping revelation, was a receipt showing more than $30,000 spent in a single day on online shopping. This extravagant spending stands in stark contrast to the needs of Dalton's residents, many of whom live in neighborhoods suffering from crumbling roads, underfunded schools, and limited access to essential services. Lightfoot did not hold back, calling Henyard's actions a blatant misuse of public funds and a slap in the face to the people of Dalton. For those living in poverty-stricken areas with little access to basic services, Henyard's lavish lifestyle represents an incredible disconnect between the mayor and the realities of her constituents. The allegations have sparked deep frustration, especially as residents question why such behavior was allowed to persist unchecked for so long. Despite the mounting criticism and public outcry, Henyard has responded with defiance, dismissing the allegations as politically motivated attacks designed to undermine her leadership. In recent public appearances and social media posts, she has portrayed herself as a victim of a smear campaign orchestrated by political adversaries who are seeking to derail her progress. As the drama intensifies, Dalton's trustees have started exploring legal options to hold Henyard accountable. Gonzalez and other trustees have made it clear that they will pursue criminal charges if evidence of embezzlement and misuse of funds is substantiated. They argue that every dollar misappropriated is a dollar taken away from crucial community initiatives, such as repairing the village's pothole-ridden streets, funding after-school programs, and providing community health services. The stakes are too high, they say, for Henyard's actions to go unpunished. In addition to the potential criminal charges, the investigation into Henyard's financial dealings continues to unfold, with auditors and legal experts combing through Dalton's financial records to uncover the full extent of the alleged misconduct. As the investigation continues, the pressure on Henyard to provide transparent answers increases. Local activists, community leaders, and residents have organized protests and public forums to demand accountability from the mayor and her administration. Many residents are calling for greater oversight, urging state and federal authorities to step in and ensure that justice is served. Some have gone so far as to start petition drives for a recall election, seeking to oust Henyard from office and replace her with a leader who prioritizes the community's needs over personal gain. The growing public outcry and the intensifying investigations are creating an atmosphere of uncertainty and turmoil in Dalton. The village's residents, many of whom feel betrayed by the current administration, are determined to hold their leaders accountable. The future of Henyard's political career now hangs in the balance as more and more evidence of financial misconduct emerges. What started as a series of allegations about mismanagement has now spiraled into a full-fledged political crisis. Henyard's actions have alienated former supporters, strained relationships with village trustees, and drawn the scrutiny of both local and state authorities. As the investigation progresses and more details emerge, the pressure on Henyard to step down continues to mount. The residents of Dalton are watching closely, demanding transparency and accountability. They no longer want a leader focused on self-promotion or personal gain. They want someone who will work to rebuild the village and address the issues that matter most to the community. Whether Henyard can weather the storm or whether the people of Dolton will succeed in forcing her out of office remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. The drama surrounding her leadership is far from over.
Point the finger to Tiffany or allow me. I'm over it. Now it's time for...
The political chaos surrounding Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has reached new heights, with even her closest allies now turning against her. Among those distancing themselves is Carmen Carlisle, a former assistant and once loyal supporter who has publicly severed ties with Henyard. Carlisle, disillusioned by Henyard's leadership style, has labeled it as reckless and unreliable. Her frustration stems from her first-hand experience witnessing key decisions made behind closed doors, often without consulting the village trustees or following established protocols. According to Carlisle, the lack of transparency and disregard for proper procedures left her deeply disappointed, prompting her to join the growing chorus of critics calling for Henyard's resignation. "This isn't leadership," Carlisle declared. "It's a circus. And the people of Dolton deserve better." Her words have resonated with many residents, who are increasingly frustrated by what they view as a chaotic administration more focused on self-promotion than effective governance. One glaring example of Henyard's self-promotion is the series of massive banners that now line Dolton's streets, each featuring her face accompanied by the proclamation, "Super Mayor!" While Henyard's supporters may see the banners as a symbol of confidence and progress, detractors view them as the epitome of vanity and ego-driven leadership. The situation took a bizarre turn when the company responsible for producing the banners revealed they had not been paid for their work, despite nearly 20 banners being prominently displayed throughout the village. The company claims to have received no compensation, raising serious questions about Henyard's fiscal responsibility. Rather than addressing the payment dispute or resolving the issue, Henyard reportedly accused the company of destroying government property and threatened to file charges against them. For many observers, this incident appears less about protecting public assets and more about salvaging Henyard's bruised ego. The unpaid banners have become a symbol of the broader dysfunction within Henyard's administration, highlighting a pattern of financial mismanagement and questionable priorities. Critics argue that while the mayor focuses on bolstering her public image with flashy displays and self-aggrandizing slogans, Dolton's pressing issues, such as crumbling infrastructure, underfunded schools, and inadequate public services, continue to be neglected. Residents have expressed outrage, pointing out that the money spent on promoting Henyard's persona could have been better utilized to address the community's urgent needs. Local activist James Carter voiced the sentiments of many when he said, "We don't need a super mayor. We need a leader who actually cares about Dolton and is willing to put the community first." Adding fuel to the fire, Henyard's confrontational approach to governance has alienated not only former allies like Carlisle, but also the village trustees, who have grown increasingly vocal in their opposition. Trustees have accused Henyard of bypassing the board on critical decisions, ignoring their input, and operating with a level of secrecy that undermines democratic processes. Trustee Chris Gonzalez has been particularly outspoken, describing Henyard's leadership as a one-woman show that prioritizes personal ambition over collective progress. Gonzalez has called for greater transparency and accountability, emphasizing that the residents of Dolton deserve a government that listens to their concerns and acts in their best interests. The growing tension between Henyard and the trustees has led to frequent clashes during village board meetings, which have often devolved into heated exchanges and in some cases, outright chaos. Meetings have been postponed or canceled altogether due to safety concerns and accusations of violations of the Open Meetings Act. The Illinois Attorney General's office has even intervened, ruling that the village violated the act and ordering officials to relocate meetings to larger venues to accommodate the increasing number of residents eager to witness the drama firsthand. Despite the mounting criticism and legal challenges, Henyard has shown no signs of backing down. In fact, she has doubled down on her defiant rhetoric, often using social media and public appearances to defend her actions, and dismissed her detractors as political enemies intent on sabotaging her progress. In a recent Facebook Live broadcast, Henyard portrayed herself as a victim of a smear campaign, accusing her critics of spreading lies and conspiring to undermine her leadership. "Am I always the target?" she asked rhetorically, as supporters flooded the comments with messages of encouragement. "Maybe it's because I'm making progress, and they don't want that." However, This narrative has done little to quell the growing discontent among Dalton's residents, many of whom are demanding concrete answers and accountability. Calls for Henyard's resignation have intensified, with community members organizing protests, petition drives, and public forums to voice their frustration. The sentiment on the ground is clear. Dalton is at a crossroads, and its residents are no longer willing to tolerate leadership that prioritizes personal gain and self-promotion over the well-being of the community. As the situation continues to unfold, the future of Dalton and Henyard's political career remains uncertain. Investigations into her financial dealings are underway, unpaid vendors are demanding compensation, and former allies are turning into vocal critics. The pressure on Henyard is mounting, and it remains to be seen whether she can weather the storm and retain her position, or whether the village will demand new leadership. What is certain, however, is that the people of Dalton are watching closely, determined to hold their leaders accountable and reclaim their town from what many perceive as a leadership crisis spiraling out of control. In the face of these challenges, the residents of Dalton find themselves grappling with the question of whether Henyard can navigate the chaos she has helped create, or if the village will finally see a change in leadership that prioritizes the community's needs over personal ambitions. The future of the village hinges on the ability of its leaders to restore trust and focus on the issues that matter most to its residents.
Is endorsing a new board, but not announcing who they are just yet, instead promising to name them later this month. Henyard is under investigation by the...
It's hard to imagine how things could get messier for Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, but she seems to outdo herself at every turn. Take her recent appointment of Ronald Burge Sr. as the village's police chief. This decision has raised serious concerns from trustees and state officials, who argue that Burge doesn't meet the legal qualifications to serve. The Illinois agency overseeing law enforcement has stated that Burge's certification is inactive due to missing paperwork and outdated training. Despite these issues, Henyard pushed forward with the appointment, sparking legal battles and further dividing the village leadership. Trustees have even vowed not to pay Burge, arguing that his appointment was illegal. Now Dalton is not only facing financial chaos but also a crisis within its police department, adding to the sense of dysfunction under Henyard's leadership. And if that wasn't enough, Henyard is also battling to stay in her home. Yes, you read that correctly. She's facing eviction. Her landlord, who once considered Henyard a friend, claims she hasn't paid rent since August. The landlord also alleges that Henyard and her boyfriend changed the locks and the garage code to keep her out of the property, all while owing thousands in overdue rent. Court documents confirm that eviction papers have been filed, but Henyard has reportedly been avoiding being served. For someone earning a six-figure salary from taxpayers, this situation raises many questions. In a recent meeting, Henyard's landlord stated she hoped to be paid what she was owed, shedding more light on the ongoing issues surrounding the mayor. All of this is taking a toll on the village. Dalton is sinking under a deficit of nearly $3.2 million, with essential services and community projects hanging by a thread. Residents are fed up, and protests have erupted, demanding Henyard's resignation. Community leaders have called her actions a betrayal, pointing out that the town's public safety and educational facilities are in dire straits due to her alleged financial mismanagement. One local activist, speaking for many residents, said, "We work hard, pay our taxes, and trust our leaders to use those funds responsibly," adding that Henyard has not only stolen money, but also undermined the trust in local government.
For the first time in many weeks, Dalton trustees and Mayor Tiffany Henyard held a public meeting together, but not at Village.
In a bold and defiant move, Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard announced her intention to seek re-election, stating, "I am running for re-election as mayor of Dalton. The people know the truth, and I am committed to fighting for my village." Her announcement comes at a time when her administration is under intense scrutiny, facing a federal investigation, multiple lawsuits, and mounting public outrage over alleged financial mismanagement and questionable leadership. Despite the controversies surrounding her, Henyard's declaration signals that she is undeterred and doubling down on her bid to remain in power. However, her critics are not impressed. Trustee Jason House, one of Henyard's most vocal opponents, and a candidate vying for the mayoral seat, dismissed her campaign as ridiculous. House, who has been a harsh critic of Henyard's leadership, emphasized that Dolton needs fresh leadership to navigate out of the chaos and dysfunction he believes Henyard has created. He has repeatedly accused the mayor of prioritizing personal gain over public service, pointing to the town's deteriorating infrastructure, strained public services, and ongoing financial scandals as evidence of her failed leadership. According to House, Henyard's re-election bid is less about serving the people of Dolton and more about clinging to power at all costs. For many residents, Henyard's decision to run for re-election feels like a slap in the face. Public sentiment has shifted dramatically over the past few months, with many community members expressing frustration and anger over what they perceive as a lack of transparency, accountability, and genuine concern for the welfare of the village. The federal investigation into Henyard's financial dealings has only intensified these feelings. Allegations that public funds meant for community development and essential services were diverted into questionable projects and private accounts have left residents questioning her integrity. In addition to the federal investigation, reports of extravagant spending on personal luxuries, including first-class travel, private parties, and expensive online purchases, have fueled the perception that Henyard is out of touch with the everyday struggles of her constituents. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who has been investigating Henyard's financial activities, described her actions as a flagrant abuse of public trust and a betrayal of the public trust. These remarks have resonated with many Dolton residents who see their town's crumbling infrastructure and underfunded schools as stark contrasts to Henyard's apparent lavish lifestyle. The growing public discontent has manifested in various ways, from heated town hall meetings to protests and petition drives demanding Henyard's resignation. Yet despite the increasing calls for her to step down, Henyard remains steadfast in her belief that she is the right leader for Dolton. In her campaign announcement, she framed herself as a victim of a politically motivated smear campaign, accusing her critics of spreading lies and misinformation to undermine her progress. They don't want to see Dolton succeed because it threatens their power, she asserted in a recent Facebook Live broadcast where she appeared confident and defiant. Henyard supporters, though fewer in number than before, continue to rally behind her. They praise her resilience and commitment to the village, and some believe that the criticism she faces is unjust. These supporters argue that she is being targeted for challenging the status quo and disrupting the political establishment. However, for many others, her rhetoric is starting to wear thin, and the reality of Dolton's challenges is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Trustee Jason House has emerged as the leading voice of opposition, positioning himself as the candidate who can restore stability and integrity to Dolton's leadership. He has outlined a platform focused on transparency, fiscal responsibility, and community engagement, promising to prioritize the needs of residents over personal or political ambitions. House has called for a thorough audit of the village's finances, increased oversight of public spending, and the implementation of policies to promote economic development and improve public services. His message has resonated with many residents who are eager for change and tired of the ongoing drama surrounding Henyard's administration. Dolton deserves better, House declared at a recent campaign event. We need leadership that listens to the people, works for the people, and is accountable to the people. As Henyard continues to press forward with her re-election bid, the battle for Dolton's future remains uncertain. With trust in her leadership rapidly eroding and an increasing number of residents calling for change, Henyard faces an uphill challenge. The village will be watching closely to see whether Henyard can overcome the controversies and regain public support, or if the winds of change will carry House to victory.